KCAA now presents Crossroads, a program in the public interest bringing you the issues you need to hear about here in our community. Now here's your host, Mark Westwood.
And good afternoon to you as we come into the second hour of our Community Crossroads show. We're having longer shows because, of course, we're getting ready for the election. In your mailboxes, ladies and gentlemen, yesterday you probably got your ballots. If you didn't get them yesterday, look today. And make sure you fish them out of all the junk mail if there's junk mail in your ballots, in your mailboxes. It's not junk mail. It's really important you fill these out. There's lots of money being spent. There's lots of tough issues, not just at the top of the ballot, which is, getting all the glory and the glamour, which we all know that's, Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. Not that, but all the way down the ballot to the referendums, to the measures, to the propositions. You need to vote. It's very, very important. And a lot of people have fought, and a lot of people died on the battlefields. My father fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. He had a Purple Heart, rest his soul. And I got to tell you, a lot of people gave their all for us to be able to simply now fill this out and mail it. It's an all-mail ballot. It's very, very easy. You fill in the bubbles. It's not that many choices. The ballot is these big pages, only about 3 pages long. And, if you want to find out, I'll give you my phone number. If you want to talk about it in person, it's 909-810-6102, 909-810-6102, because it's important. There are so many issues, so many things in the community we need to address, so much of a big dichotomy between one side or the other. And, maybe we need to meet in the middle, and that's where we should be. And that's where America has always been. So if you haven't registered to vote, it's very simple. iwillvote.com. It's very simple. iwillvote.com. Go there, and you can click on our state, California. You will bring it up, and you'll get down to business, and you'll be able to register to vote. You can go to the DMV if you really want pain. Go to the DMV. And I think that's hell on earth myself. And you can register there. You can register at your post office. Oftentimes schools will take registrations. You can register all the way up until the time it is to vote. Now, we're coming down to like the last, I think it's 15 days before the election. After that, all ballots are provisional. And I'm going to ask somebody I have on the line, a good friend, about that. She was an election official in the city of San Bernardino. She is the former city clerk of the city of San Bernardino, and now she's running for District 3 Yucaipa Council. And welcome, Gigi.
Hey, thank you, Mark.
Thank you. How
are you?
Pretty good. I don't know exactly the time it is before you have to vote provisionally, but I think it's 15 days before the election if you don't register to vote by that time. Is that true? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe so. But you know what? I've been out of the city clerk game for a few years, so things might have changed, but that was the case.
You want to do it now anyway. We have 26 days to the election. 26 days to the election. So let me give you a proper introduction. Gigi Hanna, who is a resident of Yucaipa and lives near me, and I'm a resident of Yucaipa for 23 years. And Gigi actually works across from our radio stations at Habitat Humanity, where she is a contract director of Habitat for Humanity. She was the former, I believe, two-term, correct me if I'm wrong, two-term clerk. She was elected to the city of San Bernardino with great numbers, great election. She's done a lot in the city of San Bernardino to improve it as far as, how they handle the records, information, transparency, data that they collected. She did an excellent job there. She is very, very knowledgeable, and now she is running for District 3 in Yucaipa. I think it's Gigi Hanna for Yucaipa 3?
Oh, Gigi for Yucaipa3.com.
Gigi for Yucaipa3.com. That's her website. I think you've seen some of her signs up around town. If you haven't, go look for them. They're there. How's it going, Gigi?
Well, it's going great. It's been really fun talking to people and getting to know people, talking about the issues. I think that there's probably some misconceptions about how I stand on issues because I haven't been around forever to Yucaipa, and so it's been really fun meeting people and talking to them. I love a good battle, and the issues in Yucaipa are just so fascinating to me. I moved back after I retired from San Bernardino. I moved to South Dakota, and I moved back a couple of years ago because I just couldn't take the winters, and Habitat needed me. But Yucaipa is just wonderful, and I see, all these things that make, that define quality of life are right there in Yucaipa, and yet they're facing some of the problems that I saw in San Bernardino. And, it concerns me. I mean, when I took office the first time in 2012, it was about 3 months later that the city declared a fiscal emergency, and about another 3 months, and they became bankrupt. And so pretty much most of my tenure was leading a department. We went from 17 FTEs down to 3, and a budget cuts. And we managed the department. We digitized 100 years of records. We and had on-time delivery of public records requests, better than both my predecessor and my successor. And so I know that there are things that we can do in Yucaipa facing this deficit within City Hall, as well as outside of City Hall, to sort of nip this in the bud. It does not have to get out of hand, the deficit. So I decided I was interested in. I was just following the news, and I was interested in. And I thought, what, with my experience, I have a lot of experience in reading policy and helping write policy, in helping negotiate. And so I thought, maybe I can bring some of my talent to Yucaipa. While I'm here, I'm buying a house here. I was ordered by the family in South Dakota to make sure there was a place for them to winter. So, so I am looking, and the thing is Yucaipa is nothing like the areas around it in the way it feels, and so that's what makes it special, and that's why I'm there. That's why a lot of people are there.
Yeah, and without getting into the weeds on this, some of the problems you're talking about is, like everything, revenues come, they go.
Yeah.
They ebb, they wane. Right now, the revenues are a little down. They've been down since the pandemic. 2018, it was an all-time high. The city was living pretty good. We saw some additions of some great things, some landscaping, medians up and down the boulevard with trees. It made the city look really pretty. Traffic go-rounds or merry-go-rounds or whatever you want to call them were added. That was through money from the state, too, by the way. And then, the Performing Arts Center, the Yucaipa Performing Arts Center, is just a nice facility. We've seen a tremendous improvement in downtown happen from councils for the last 20 years or so. And times were good. And then all of a sudden, it's time for Yucaipa to tighten its belt. And here we find out that Phil White, the finance director of the city of Yucaipa, projects a $7.3 billion budget deficit. And they've said things like this. I'll say it. This is not Gigi saying that. This is the current city council saying that they need to cut 5 sheriff's positions if this measure isn't passed, or that they need to close down a fire department, or possibly close down the senior community center. Making cuts like that's hard because those are all direct benefits to the city of Yucaipa. Now, they had a measure like this before, folks, just for background. It was called, I believe, Measure E, and it went down, only got about 30% of the vote, pretty badly. And now we have Measure S, and they're fighting hard. There's a lot of money going into it. We see Measure S signs everywhere. Of course, the firefighters and the police are getting behind this because, well, their jobs are on the line. They've got jobs on the line. And their unions are kicking in on that. And, I don't know whether Measure S is a good solution or not. And without getting the weeds in that, I personally don't think it will pass because you have to get 50% of the voters who voted plus 1. And that's a pretty tough task for anybody to get that, let alone a tax raise. And so if it doesn't pass, Gigi, do you have any innovative solutions or ideas that come to mind of what we can do, or how are we going to deal with this? You're going to be voting on the city council.
I know. And, I think a big part of that is collaboration on the council in finding solutions, because we're all going to be under fire, because there will be decisions that are very unpopular. I think, and you and I have talked about this, I do think that there's some cutting within City Hall administration costs that can be brought down. You know, my background is government relations and public affairs, and I many times over the last 30 years, I have had to cut my budgets when the public agency I work for or the nonprofit I work for or even a private company I work for had to tighten their belts. The first thing that goes is your PR. And it doesn't mean you lose all communications, but you pull things back. And government relations can be, you know, it's great if you have a lobbyist, but you also have, say, city managers that can do that kind of work, and often do. So I think you have to be creative. I do think, I know it's highly unpopular, and perhaps if I had been here before it was built, I'd feel the same way. I think the YPAC will be a source of revenue. I think it's an incredible
incredible facility, an asset.
Right. It's an incredible asset. They just need to figure out how to monetize it better. I don't know if city employees are the best way to figure that out. I don't know.
There's been a suggestion of privatizing it, leasing it out. There's been a suggestion to lease it or sell it.
And I don't know if that's the way we want to go. I mean, the city loses a great resource for its own. You know, I went to a community meeting in June at the YPAC, and I've been to other things. So I don't know if they want to necessarily, but it certainly is going to be an option that the future council will have to.
And hey, performing arts, you can get grants. It may not be a solution right away.
Absolutely.
But you can get grants. And yeah, go ahead.
So I think, you know, maybe that. I do think some cuts in City Hall. I really don't want to see cuts to the senior center, the community center, because of how much it gives back to the community, how much many people in the community. Yeah, and I go to the senior center every Tuesday for Rotary, and you know, I look at the programs they're doing, and I mean that's important to a very important segment, not just of Yucaipa, but specifically District 3. And yeah, I don't want to see that, and I don't want to see a cut in public safety. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. And you know, the thing I bring is the fact that I have seen a lot of these kind of discussions, both in open session, been part of them with budget cuts, meeting with finance directors and trying to figure out how to continue to provide services within my own department under the guise, you know, people say, why can't government be run by, you know, like a private business? Well, there's laws for that. You know, there's reasons it can't be, and it has to do with, you know, fairness and access for everybody. And so you take that approach to your budget and say, okay, you know, what can we cut, knowing that we need to provide fair.
I'm going to say something unpersonal. I'm going to say something unpopular without involving you too much in it. But, you know, Yucaipa, and I asked this, I had Joe Perdetto, the public information officer, the promotions guy for the city of Yucaipa, with a $1.1 million budget on. And he's running now for Palm Desert City Council, by the way. So he's, you know, really kind of promoting that way right now. I don't know how he's doing both, and then, you know, earning that 1.1. He's not making $1.1 million, but his budget is that. He's one of about 43 employees. As Phil Wright says, there's about 150 employees. But there's 43 employees. If you look at transparentcalifornia.com, that are making well over $100,000. And the average median salary in Yucaipa is $54,008. And the median salary, and the average salary is about $38,000. We have 2,200 people living at the poverty level, and we have about 600 homeless in Yucaipa. Homeless. And so it's hard to get people to get behind a 1% tax increase when they're having struggles themselves, and then there's so much gravy at City Hall. And so, you know, one of the areas that's going to be tough, Gigi, is you're going to have to, as a city council member, look at where you're going to cut the budget. I kind of call City Hall Noah's Ark because it has two of everything lately, and so maybe they need to cut down on that stuff. So, you know, we don't need two of this and two of that, and, you know, the idea was, we're going to bring in another, you know, public information officer and have the old public information officer do another duty and make another job for them, and then, you know, we're going to pay them the same amount of money. And so that doesn't work. That is a recipe I mean, if you could write down, add 2
Well,
cups
if
of
you
sugar,
have the money,
2 cups
if
of
you
flour.
have the money,
yeah.
But yeah, no, the city. And one of the things I've been doing is in my time city clerk is I've met a lot of finance directors throughout the state, and for some reason, finance directors and city clerks tended to have our conventions and conferences together. And so I've actually been asking them, with the eye towards turning this around, what would they suggest? And so I hope to have some ideas, because I don't know. I'm not a finance person, but I am a eternal optimist, and I believe that we can turn this around, but it is going to take belt tightening and discipline, fiscal discipline, and it's also going to take some acceptance from the residents that they may not see as much as what they saw before. They may be happy with that, but things will change. Things, you might not get as many services, or they might, the process might change. You have to prioritize. to deal with staffing changes. But yeah, I mean, when you are in times that you can't afford a bigger staff, you probably are going to be looking at ending programs to get rid of, to let go of staff. And the thing is, because they're coming up with on contract renegotiations, and I think a good way to start with that is a salary survey to see what like jobs are making in like-sized cities. There's no place like Yucaipa, but there are cities that are similarly sized, and I think it'd give you a far better idea of what employees should be making and how many employees you should maybe have to deliver services.
I have a budget at my house. I know a lot of households have a lot of budgets at their house. Everybody has to live within their budget.
Right.
And sometimes that means, like I just repaired my car instead of buying that new Ford Bronco I wanted to buy, because I realized that car payments would be too high.
Right.
And so I really, really, think and we encourage them. We're going to talk about your race after the break here and how people can donate and support you and your quest for Yucaipa City Council. We're going to take a break here in just a second. Gigi, we've been talking with Gigi Hanna, who's a council candidate, District 3 in Yucaipa. And Gigi, tell us your website again one time before we go to break.
It's Gigi, the numeral 4, Yucaipa, the numeral 3.com. Gigi4Yucaipa3.com.
Gigi4Yucaipa3.com. Very easy. You can also probably Google it by now. It probably pops right up. Beautiful website. She's got some really great signs out there. She's running a really tough-fought campaign out there in Yucaipa. She's got a couple of opponents. But we're going to talk about the campaign and your vision and what you'd like to see happen in Yucaipa right after this. I'm Mark Westwood on Community Crossroads on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. I got so many frequencies. And the stations that leave you no listener behind. I'll be right back.
This is KCAA.
Calling all business owners, this is your moment. Join us for the 14th Annual Connecting Faith in Business Summit happening on October 17th at the beautiful Doubletree Hotel in Ontario, California. Registration opens at 9 a.m. and the conference kicks off at 10 a.m. sharp. This isn't just another business event, it's a gathering of minds and hearts where faith and entrepreneurship comes together. Bakers, SBA representatives, and marketing experts will be there to equip you with powerful tools to grow your business. Plus, we'll take a special moment to pray for your business because we know that true success is built on faith. Don't miss out. Go to ampac.com today to register or call 909-915-1706. Step into your purpose and unlock the resources you need for your business to thrive. We'll see you there at the 16th Annual Connecting Faith in Business Summit, where your faith and future connect.
I'm Gigi Hanna, and I'm excited to be running for District 3 Yucaipa City Council.
As a former elections official and city clerk, Gigi is the best qualified candidate with 30 years experience in municipal government, public policy, and team building.
We can work together for a brighter future.
She'll bring a strong, logical, expert voice to the table for the people.
I want to hear what you have to say as well.
Gigi wants Yucaipa to be Yucaipa, not Bakersfield or Fresno. Gigi loves Yucaipa for its safe, walkable downtown, easy freeway access, and rural feel. Yucaipa's rural charm is important to her. She wants to limit higher density housing, fully funding public safety and making sure our mobile home parks have stable rents and safe conditions.
Let's make Yucaipa an even better place to call home.
Knowledge, experience.
Maintaining Yucaipa's rural charm.
Like Gigi Hanna. Vote Gigi Hanna for Yucaipa City Council, District 3 by November 5th. Paid for by Gigi Hanna for Yucaipa City Council.
Once in a while, every so often, an educator comes to our school systems with passion and vision. That's Nicholas Dibbs.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Dibbs, teacher running for school board here in Garden Grove Unified Trustee Area 1. And the district cut 10 intermediate school woodshop classes and 4 auto shop classes. We need these classes back so students can have a better future.
This is Nicholas Dibbs' Opus.
Where many schools eliminate their wood shops, a project that they could really dig into.
No matter where you live across this country,
it feels like thrilling to see something that I've done being so important.
It feels nice because I know that a lot of people don't really think that kids can really do stuff like this. They don't think that we can actually do big things.
Some leaders recognize that, others don't. But on November 5th, you can by voting for Nicholas Dibbs.
Please support this effort so we can have quality vocational education.
And that's amazing.
Go to nickdibs.org, nickdibs.org. Thank you.
Paid for by Dibs for School Board 2024.
This is KCAA.
KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. Oh, I was almost messing up the frequency earlier, and I got to explain that, folks. And I did a little bit of history here for you. Back in the day when we were putting on the FM, we actually had 106.3, did the logos and everything else. And it is, sometimes the engineering doesn't turn out right, and the signal wasn't very good for us. So we moved up one to 106.5. So every once in a while, my little brain trap starts saying the wrong frequency, and then I get confused. I'm like, which one is it? I guess that's coming with age or whatever. But we are 106.5 NBC Radio and 1050 AM. And we're on Community Crossroads with my good friend Gigi Hanna, who's running, I'm proud to say, for District 3 Yucaipa City Council. I think she will make an excellent city councilwoman. We don't always agree on everything, I got to tell you that, so we're kind of avoiding that. But you know what? That's a good thing, and that's the way you have to work. Sometimes you agree with people, sometimes you don't agree with people. You find your commonalities, and you're mature people, and you work towards the good and towards the positive. And that's what I think Gigi can do. Right, Gigi?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Gigi,
and, go ahead.
Gigi is the director for San Bernardino Area Habitat for Humanity. She is the former city clerk, twice elected in the city of San Bernardino, served 8 years there, did well, was very successful, and she retired. Little does she know, she's kind of getting brought back out of retirement because she lives in Yucaipa, she loves Yucaipa, and she has a vision for Yucaipa. So before we do this, for our listeners, her website is
gg4yucaipa3.com.
gg4yucaipa3.com. You can go there and find out the nitty-gritty. You can see what she looks like and the whole 9 yards. You can also make a donation, I believe, through that website, if I'm not mistaken. Is that true?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, you can.
And
you're highly encouraged to.
Yeah, because you need the money. This stuff is expensive, and political consultants say, don't spend your own money on this. And, you get the support from the community, and you're running a pretty good campaign. But this half hour, I want to know your vision. When you look across Yucaipa Boulevard, when you look up on Chapman Heights, when you cross Oak Glen or California Street or Bryant or 3rd Street or, any of these great streets and you see the Oaks here in Yucaipa or, even Oak Glen, which is part of Yucaipa. What's your vision? What's the city you want to see? Do you want to see Pomona or do you want to see Solvang?
Well, I want to see Yucaipa.
Yeah, I think that was the answer, but yeah.
And so what I like the rural nature of Yucaipa. I recognize that, even it has changed over the hundreds of years, and it's going to change. That is the nature of things. And also there's the housing requirements from the state and people like me who are retiring and looking for a piece of heaven in Southern California, and they moved to Yucaipa. So I'd like to hang on to that as much as we can while some of those outside forces are requiring.
I mean,
change.
some people move to New York and Los Angeles, and they like that big urban, tight, population, the dense population. Then a lot of people over the years have moved to Yucaipa for its rural atmosphere. I fell in love when I moved in 2003 to Yucaipa, and I wasn't thinking about moving to Yucaipa. Just a quick history: I had sold my house in San Bernardino. I had been a 33-year resident of San Bernardino, and I was looking around maybe Redlands, San Bernardino, Highland. I really hadn't even thought about Yucaipa, and my house sold really quickly. And I had a fast forward escrow, and I had to be out in 15 days because the people needed the house, and so I had to get out. And out. So I needed to find a place. I didn't want to rent an apartment. And so my realtor said, why don't you buy a mobile home? You can buy it quick and then sell it and move into another house. And that, it didn't work. And I'll tell you why, because I love the mobile home living. And I love my mobile home. And I fixed it up real nice. And I want to stay there now. I want to stay in Yucaipa. Right. And then I love the rural atmosphere of Yucaipa and the fact that I can drive out into like a country-like area, that a lot of lots are quarter acre or more, and I don't want to see high density warehouses and things like that. What's your vision?
All. Well, I think you address your higher density housing down closer to the freeway with mixed use development, some retail, light industrial, maybe office, but you keep that stuff down closer to the freeway. It's better suited. It's better suited for working families to get to work. I know it takes me. I live up towards the top of Yucaipa Boulevard. It takes me quite a bit sometimes to get to that freeway, and I'm not usually in a hurry. But I could see where that would be a benefit to working families. So I'd like to see that. I don't.
Cities have to grow.
They have to grow, and
but it grows smart.
We have to pay for the public safety that we want and the other amenities. And so, but I don't think we need to do it with warehouses. And, and I
say that again. You don't need to do it with warehouses. That's what you said.
No,
right?
I do not. I do not. I think that there are alternatives, and
we don't need to be the industrial port.
Right. And the people that would like to see warehouses there have asked me, they say, okay, what's the alternative? And I said, well, I'm not that person. I'm not a planner, but I am the person that brings people together to have some ideas, And
the 10 freeway already has tons of trucks. The 10 freeway already has tons of trucks,
Right. I think we can do better. And I love the ruralness on the north part. I do like the wine idea. I don't necessarily think that the wineries ought to be up there. I think they need to be in uptown, maybe park and ride to keep people safe and circulating around the city. I'd like to see, actually, this was kind of, we were talking about the YPAC, and I would like to see that being used, the outdoor part of that, because there's so many tourists that come to Yucaipa on the weekends and during special events around the YPAC, a kind of an interpretive board about Yucaipa's history and explaining the history. And while you're there, you might be able to pick up a trolley or something to go to the wineries. And so you keep the traffic out of the neighborhoods, out of the downtown. So that's, I think we can have some growth. You can still embrace history.
What they call smart growth, right?
Smart growth, and smart growth is such a trigger, because it has some meaning. I prefer thoughtful. And the reason I say thoughtful is I really do believe that it can't be top down. It really needs to be collaborative. You need to take the community's wants and needs into consideration.
Oh, you mean listen?
Exactly. And you know what?
Wow, what a concept.
And that was actually what spurred me. You and I have talked about this. What spurred me to run was when I started hearing that, and I read the grand jury report that the community was not involved in Yucaipa, and that just outraged me. I mean, my career before I was in public agencies is I was a reporter and covering city and county governments, and then I worked for a public agency, government relations and PR. That was Metropolitan Water District. And then I go into university. Every aspect of my career has been about public's access to information and their government. And so when here I am in this my new hometown, and I argue about this is not my hometown, this is my new town, and I'm happy to make my home there.
That's your home.
Yes,
yeah.
I do live there, and I love that I live there. But I'm settling in, I'm following the news, and I was just outraged because I don't care how you fall down on an issue. I don't care what side. If I am on the council, it is my job. It is what people elected me to do was to listen to your concerns. And you take those in and you make decisions, and those decisions aren't always going to be necessarily popular. It's certainly probably unpopular with half the people that talk to you,
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be willing to listen. And if you already go into a situation with those blinders,
or get hostile, yeah.
You get hostile at either side, and that just concerns me because it really impedes win-wins.
I've listened to people, and when I started listening to them, I said, I'm going to disagree with them. I'm not going to like what they say. I kind of predict what they're going to say, and by the time I'm done listening, I went, wow, you know what? That's not bad. That makes sense. I think that's a good idea. So that's why listening is so important. I have two ears and one mouth, talk half the time, and listen twice as much. That's what my mom used to say. So I went to radio. but don't you agree with me? Don't you agree with me on that? I'm glad that you're taking the stance you are on warehouses. That's a good thing. And that you like to see the Yucaipa rural atmosphere. And so you're not really for really high density housing, right?
Not up in that area. If we have to have high density housing, put it down by closer to the freeway where there's already higher density housing. Maybe not high. I don't like high density housing. I think it's.
So would you be in favor of revising the general plan? Putting you on the spot here.
Oh man, yeah. I'm not going to.
In favor of less density housing is what I'm saying.
Oh, but you have to meet the state requirements.
Right.
So I do think that if you can maybe look at the general plan and maybe rearrange, but you do have to address that. So there is going to be some higher density housing, and my point is keep it away from the areas that are already or that remain un.
Well, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and you can't have that housing offered in certain areas of the city which are not rural, which the people paid a lot of money to go live in those rural areas, and maybe the roads aren't accessible very well. Maybe it's not safe either. And, but of course, I don't own the land up there, so I'm sure that the landowners of the warehouses or the people up in the wineries that, have high mortgages and stuff, they want to sell off and subdivide.
And I struggle with that because I do believe, in personal property rights. And so it's
but
not
at the expense, not at the expense of everyone.
Right. And so I think that we can come up with a better plan where they make their profit, and it is not as onerous of a impact.
I don't know. I think the city of Yucaipa, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have about 57,000 people. I think that's where we've added.
Somewhere 55, 57, something like that.
Yeah, and it ebbs and wanes, just like the budgets, just like the revenues, just like the expenses. And so, we have to update and, keep a current general plan. And that's why we have a finance director to keep their eye on what the city's doing and how they're spending and all that kind of stuff. And so, here we are with the $7.3 billion, $7.3 million budget deficit, which is still a lot of money. And, we have to make these choices. But we can be innovative, we can be creative, and still offer good services. Because people are paying their taxes. I think they want something for return. They don't want it to senior citizens on the streets. Heaven forbid. They get into trouble, those senior citizens, if they're on the streets. We want our kids to be able to go swim in the swimming pool and maybe even have a nicer pool. So, that's why being a dedicated, you pay attention to line item details. And I think that's what's good thing about that too. I've talked with you. You look right at those budgets and stuff like that and you go,
I'm not scared of talking to people that I don't know or that I have disagreed with to see, where they are coming and maybe if we can find common ground. I think that's the most professional and effective way to come to agreement. Is you can't just refuse to talk to one person or one group. We're not going to. I said this the other night at the candidate forum that
you have to talk about difficult things.
I'm not going to save Yucaipa. No one person is, and honestly, no one group is going to save Yucaipa. It is everybody digging in to help and understand that it's a community, and it's community problems that will be solved by community.
So we have an election coming up November 5th, and I will tell you that the budget isn't the only thing that ebbs and wanes, and it's been ebbing a lot, is the voting. And since 2016, it's gone down and down and down, where, we used to have, 45,000 people voting, believe it or not, in Yucaipa. Now, it's down considerably. I think 17 or 20,000 in the last election. Can't quote me because I have a lot of figures from a lot of counties and a lot of cities in my head. But yeah, the downcrease in voting and voter participation has been going down substantially each election, and we've got to figure out how to inspire people to vote again. Well,
I think that grand jury report is a big giant finger at people's distrust in their government. Really affects their participation in it. I did a bunch of study in grad school on specifically that government transparency and people's trust and their participation in it. And so that is from the local to the federal level. I think people's trust in their government will. And building that trust, and part of building it is listening to the constituents and trying to find common ground. But at the local, federal, whatever level,
access is an important part too.
Access is huge, and the more people feel like they're being heard and they're being, that they're really truly a part of the process, the more they'll be willing to be part of that process. And hope for me. The way I've tried to do that with people is to provide public access to their documents. We digitized over 100 years in San Bernardino. We made campaign finance stuff online through NetFile, which they didn't have, and I know that Yucaipa has now, so that you could search campaign contributions both to the candidate, who was making them, how much, what race. It just was far more transparent. And so I think all these little baby steps that you can do to increase trust will also bring up the voting.
I called because I had a question the other day at City Hall. Called 3 times. Every time I got a voicemail message, and I haven't gotten through to have my question answered yet. And I'm Mark Westwood from NBC Radio, from KQLH, from KCAA. Oh, wow. And I'm not an adversary. I'm pretty well known and respected, but they haven't got back to me. My question is this. I had a question about Burtek and how it came to be that they raised their rates substantially, and that's going to affect mobile home orders. Now, there are how many parks in Yucaipa?
41-ish?
41, exactly, right on. 41. And, I have a printout of everybody that lives in a park in Yucaipa. And, it's a substantial amount of people that are going to be affected by this. Now, but what they left out
of... Not just them.
Yeah, but that's the fee that's going on there. They're getting the fee on their statement for their rent, for their stuff. So that's what I'm talking about, that particular one. And, it's going to affect us substantially. It's going to be a big raise, like $22, I think it is. And, for...
Monthly?
Monthly,
that's annually. I think it's annually, isn't it?
Well, that's my question. I wanted questions. I don't know. And, that's my access. And how do I trust government when I don't know the answers to something? And when I call the person, I have their personal cell phone number and they don't answer back.
Yeah.
The guy.
Actually, they're in a backup report on the agenda where they brought in the Burtech thing. They talk about what the average price would be, and what I think the 22 you're talking about is a percentage. But yeah, that's difficult.
I hear stuff out in the wind. I hear it from people here and there, and I'm going, what? How did that happen? Because I can't go to every hearing and every commission meeting and every UKIPA. I'm not that person that's going to go to every single UKIPA City Council meeting and talk on the microphone. I just don't think that's
talk
productive.
On the microphone.
Huh?
Go on their website. I said, you don't have to talk at the microphone. Go on their website. They have done a lot to update that website. And, they spent good money on it. And it's probably some of the reason that, we're looking at the need for cuts, but so utilize it. It's been spent. It's out there, and but I get your point. I mean, and that is difficult.
I hate ChatGPT, but okay, go ahead.
Most
are older people.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
But you know what? I have to say, and I want to give a shout out. I used the app because I needed something graded. On the alley near my house was just so rutted. I was bottoming out my car, and so I put in the request of the UKIPA app, and it was done within 2 days. So, I'm sorry it's not been as successful for you, but anyway. So back to the Vertex thing. You know how that was raised, and that bothers me too because I think it was kind of a backdoor tax rate, and if they call it this franchise fee, but it was a way to raise funds, completely illegal. And I saw this as city clerk. The state requires that you send out notices, Prop 218 notices to people with rate increases. And people get them. They don't necessarily pay attention. And what it says is, you have this amount of time to respond.
Sometimes it's over-communicated. We'll get a booklet, a 25-page booklet about various different things, and that's stuck in the middle of it, and it's stuck in with our mobile home rent invoices. And you're like, oh, God, put that down. I'll read that later. It's in 10-point font in newsprint, maybe 9-point font, and so you don't read it. Or maybe you weren't notified at all, or maybe they left it up to the mobile home park owners to notify you. And the way they notified you was just to put it on a line item on your invoice, and here you go. Here's the extra money. And, we pay for ambulance fees. We pay for a lot of that stuff. By the way, there is a UKIPA Mobile Home Residents Association meeting this Saturday at the UKIPA Women's Club. It's a pretty important meeting from what I understand. I'm going to just do a little plug here real quick, Gigi. They're talking about disbanding. They're talking about disbanding or maybe even merging with a corporation that's not even like their like corporation. I can go into that a lot. I do have a microphone every day I can talk to, but I don't get an answer back. They don't call in and say, "Hey, Mark, this is what this is." And that's kind of wrong because if it's me doing that, I can understand why other people aren't getting that answer either. And it's frustrating. So access is one of the big things that I hope you will focus on, and not just ChatGPT. Yeah. And, so we have about 3-4 minutes left, believe it or not, in this hour. And, we've been talking with Gigi Hanna, who's a candidate for District 3 UKIPA City Council, former city clerk, current director of Habitat for Humanity. You kind of brushed over your education and training. Talk about that a little bit.
I'm sorry, you said I brushed over it?
Brustled over a little bit. You just kind of said it real fast. But
yes, so I started off my career as a reporter, and I was a journalism and poli-sci major, and worked throughout the state. I happened to end up in San Bernardino after Norton closed, covering the effects of Norton closing on the community. And I was here, moved on to other newspapers up in Fresno, down in San Diego, and then went to work for, writing policy papers for Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, the 800-pound gorilla that imports water from the Northern California and the Colorado River. And so...
so you got some water experience. That's good.
I do. And, one of the things about that is they were in the midst of negotiations on the Colorado River and how to apportion up that water among the 7 basin states that were growing based on old allotments. And so I've seen knockdown, drag out, negotiations with some really high level people been in the room and seeing how people collaborate to find solution, and they did it. And so anyway, that was when I was at Metropolitan, but I decided I was too far away from home and took a job at Cal State at the Water Resources Institute. Again, talking water policy, and there I was fortunate enough to be the communications director for Governor Schwarzenegger's statewide alluvial fan task force, and we looked at development, sustainable development on alluvial fans, which is basically Yucaipa, an alluvial fan at the base of mountains. And it looked at fire and flood and recreational needs and development needs and ag needs. And so a lot of the issues that are up for consideration in Yucaipa are things that I've already thought about and talked about and know some experts and at least have a basis of knowledge, even if I don't necessarily have some preconceived notions, because I think when you do that, you limit yourself. And then, I saw that the city clerk was retiring, and I was concerned about who I'd heard was going to be running, that it might be a political issue for them. And for me, I'm about public access to public documents. I actually knew what a city clerk did because I'd been a reporter and used to get lots of documents from the clerk. And so I ran and was just blessed enough to win, and I loved that job. I loved the being able to help the public. So
and here you are.
And here I am.
And Gigi, I'm going to interrupt you just for a minute. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to gather your thoughts here, and then I'm going to have you do the last pitch here on the program today to talk directly to the voters. And while you're gathering those thoughts together, I'm going to tell our voters, iwillvote.com. November 5th is the election. We have 26 days now until the election. It's just not all about Kamala and Donald. It's about city council races. It's about school board races. It's about propositions. It's about measures. There's a lot of things to pay attention to research. Google it, look and listen and vote, because if you don't participate, then you don't have any right to complain. I'm Mark Westwood with KCAA and Community Crossroads, and now Gigi Hanna, as I've said, this is your last minute to take a minute or so, talk directly to the voters, and tell them why and how and why they should vote for Gigi Hanna. Go.
I have 30 years of experience in exactly the issues that Yucaipa is facing. I'm not here to save Yucaipa. Not any of us can do that. I'm here because I am living the best life in a town I love, doing what my faith calls me to do, what I can, wherever I am, for as long as I can. And I humbly ask District 3 voters to put your trust in me. Know that I will listen to your concerns and do the best to advocate for you at City Hall. Thank you very much.
And
Gigi4Yucaipa3.com.
There you go. I was going to say that. Gigi for Yucaipa3.com. It's been a privilege and honor to have a great candidate like Gigi. Best of luck in the upcoming election. We thank you for coming on at the last minute. We were going to have Donald Williamson. Something happened. I don't know. Donald Williamson, vote DonaldWilliamson.com. Vote DonaldWilliamson.com. I'll give him that. We, at the last minute here, I think we got about another 1 minute. We got another 2 minutes. Gigi, I've got to make an announcement. And we haven't said this a lot on the air, but sometimes change happens. Sometimes good change happens. And we've had a client on the air for, going on a year or two now, named called Teamsters 1932. They're our sponsors of our news shows. They now have a 2-hour show, and they've been a very good influence around here. And we have decided to lease some space for them. And our studios, lock, stock, and barrel, our associate radio stations, KCAA, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. We're moving, ladies and gentlemen. We're backing up the U-Haul, and we're moving back to San Bernardino. Oh, good sound effect. That's good. And we will be on the air without very much skip of anything. My intention is not to have more than about 30 seconds, because that's the last time when I moved San Bernardino to Redlands. So when we move back from Redlands to San Bernardino again, less than 30 seconds this time of dead air as we move. You'll have to listen to us on Sunday morning at 3 a.m. in the morning. But we are moving. Ladies and gentlemen, KCA will be in a new location at 433 North Sierra Way in the old Teamsters building that's right next to where there was the former Arrowhead Credit Union building, which is now the Teamsters offices. We're going to be in a building along with a medical clinic on one side of it, and on the other side, we've got about 3,300 square feet of space. It's going to be nice digs. They've really been working hard. They're anxious for us to come. We're excited to be collaborating with them, and it's what good things can happen in the community, Gigi, like I said, and you said, when you collaborate. So we will be moving about the middle of this month, which is right around the corner. KCA, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. The election is November 5th. Vote. I'm Mark Westwood. Thank you for listening to Community Crossroads. Have a good day.